Who am I? The girls them sugar.
Let's move on, man. You want to introduce this topic?
Yeah, speaking of people cooking and dropping the ball. So one of the biggest, if not the biggest story that came out this past week was Nick Cannon actually being fired from Viacom CBS. So he was fired because of his interview with Professor Griff, a former member of Public Enemy. And in that long interview, it's about an hour and a half, he made several anti-Semitic comments. And what I think was crazy is he made even more wild comments about white people, which I'm sure we'll get into. But definitely some troubling statements were made. Specifically, when talking about Jewish people, he referenced the Rothschild, centralized banking, the 13 families, the bloodlines that control everything, even outside of America. Basically, again, like we were talking about last week, kind of framing Jewish people as like they run everything, they control everything. And we talked about last week how that type of rhetoric is problematic, but also saying that Black people are the real Jewish people and we are the real Semitic people. So they are, in fact, imposters and they're taking what is rightfully ours. And that type of language, again, is problematic in the Jewish community. He also said white people were more savage and less than because of their lack of melanin, and they because Black people have more melanin, we're more compassionate people. And Viacom, I guess, initially went to him to ask him to apologize, and initially he didn't apologize, which led to him swiftly getting fired by Viacom, and that houses his Wild 'N Out show on MTV. But then he later apologized, and then Fox agreed to keep him on the show, The Masked Singer. So wanted to talk about this. Again, it seems like a recurring situation, but what do you think about the situation, bro?
I think I'm going to condemn what Nick Cannon said. A lot of things that he said, at least, because it was an hour-long interview. I know we only talking about some of the clips of it, but there was an hour-long video. He did say some stuff that was a little bit eye-opening. And again, he's one of those thought-provoking people that we talk about all the time. Not to necessarily listen to everything that they say, but listen to what they say and then try to get some thoughts about it. So I'm gonna condemn with a lot of what he says, but I'm not gonna condemn Nick Cannon because again, he's just kind of regurgitating some stuff that he had already heard. Now the problem is what he is regurgitating is questionable at best. So this is a long. It dates back a long time. This is not a new conversation. It's anti-Semitic stuff. It's not a just now because Deshaun Jackson said it and now Nick Cannon is saying it. Even the dude that he was interviewing has been accused of being anti-Semitic in the past. Like, and you can make that case pretty easily, but I'll let you make that case. So what he's regurgitating is already questionable at best. There's no way to prove these type of things that he's saying. That's the real problem with it. But what I will kind of commend him for, because I'm trying to keep the same energy that I had with Drew Brees, and it's that, hey, like, just because I don't agree with what you said doesn't make the difference. Like, I'm going to keep the same energy. So what I said about Drew Brees was that, hey, the 24-hour apologies, I'm cool with. I'm cool with you coming out an hour, 2 hours later within that first 24 hours apologizing without speaking to anybody, just trying to, adhere to the backlash. Nick Cannon's first comments, and I'll put that on the screen here for y'all, but Nick Cannon's first comments was like, hey, basically, I take accountability for what I said, but I'm also open for education. If somebody wants to come in, tell me about it, talk to me about, hey, why is this anti-Semitic? Why is this the wrong thing to say? If somebody's available to come in here and educate me, then I'm all open for it. I'm not against that. So he then come back about 48 hours, set to 72 hours later, and then comes out and tweets again. I'll put that up. But he basically says that, hey, I've talked to some of my Jewish friends in my Jewish community. I've realized how hurtful and painful that was for y'all. I really understand it now. I apologize. I think that we are canceling people and throwing the baby out with the water, right? So Nick Cannon doesn't have a history of just hate. Like no one, I don't know where you would be able to find that at. So Nick Cannon doesn't have a history of this type of thing. So we shouldn't just be canceling Nick Cannon. This cancel culture stuff is what D.L. Hughley actually said this on his platform, but he basically said that, hey, this canceling stuff is making it so we don't have conversation that we should be having. Like, we should be educating people when they talk like this. We should be telling them why this stuff is ignorant, because what they're doing is reading and they're going out on themselves and they're looking at these type of articles because these are cited sources. This is an actual psychiatrist that's actually posting stuff like this. It was a long time ago. And even up to, I think it was like 2010 was the last time when I was researching it, was the last time that I could see some of these things being reposted and things of that nature. But these are actual people that he's actual people that have degrees and things of that nature that he's actually following, trying to figure out what they're saying and then regurgitating it. And then not only that, he's having it with another person that has the same thoughts as him. That's the problem. He's having it on his platform with the person that feels the same way as him. Me and you don't feel the same way on a lot of different things, especially politically. So it's good for us to be on the platform talking to each other so we can try to get so people that can listen can hear both sides of it. When you only got somebody that's going to agree with you, you have nobody to check you. So what he did was correct that by coming out saying, hey, I apologize for what I said. Or not necessarily apologize, but I take accountability for what I said. But hey, I'm looking for education at this point. He got his education. He apologized. He realized that it was wrong. I think that's the right thing to do. That's the way to handle a situation like this. If you get fired and things of that nature, don't adhere to that backlash. Because you said what you said. At some point, you got to stand on what you said. And we'll talk about that with Chance in a little bit. But I'm cool with the 24-hour apologies. Like we've been over this like many times. So this to me is the best way to handle it. Whether what he said was right or wrong, I think that's obvious. But I don't think that you can cancel Nick Cannon for a mistake. That I don't think that's right. Did that make sense? I know I kind of went over a lot of topics.
No, you straight.
Okay.
I just wish you had that same energy for my dog Kanye and the other brother we're gonna discuss later. But that's neither here nor there. All right.
We'll get to it.
It's neither here nor there. I agree. I think in the Black community, this rhetoric is not uncommon. Like I've heard this. I may be a little bit more biased. I may have had a stronger awareness of this just because of the strong footprint of the Hebrew Israelites that they had in Philadelphia. But this language, this type of methodology is very common, and this dates back all the way to the late 1800s. So you can kind of see this in like Kendrick Lamar's last album when he talked about in his song Yah, where he said, I'm not black no more, I'm an Israelite. Like being black, that's not facts no more. And then he had his on the song Fear, he talked to his cousin talking about how black people were the true Israelites. And then on Jay Electronica, when he quoted Louis Farrakhan, that's kind of in that same vein of how black people are the chosen people, and that how we are the chosen people, we are the people of God. And again, Tamika Mallory said this the best way, and I don't think I can say it any better. I refuse to condemn a black man in a public light in a country that has a history of condemning, killing, oppressing our leaders. So I won't do that on a national stage, even though I do disagree strongly with some of their ideologies. But I think the bigger issue is we have to start looking at why these narratives are so popular so that we can start to kind of prevent these things from happening. Because if you look at it, if you check the comments, if you check on social media, a lot of people don't think Nick Cannon said anything bad at all. And again, like we might see like, oh yeah, it's obvious what he said was wrong, but a lot of people don't. Because like I said, this is a conversation that's been going on in the community for quite some time. And there are people that really think like this and they don't understand the error in their ways. So when we talk about the Black Hebrew Israelites, this was a group formed in the late 1800s after slavery ended in opposition to the new Jim Crow era that was actually systematically oppressing Black people. So they had to kind of they had to form a methodology to kind of explain and empower Black people in the face of overt oppression, in the opposition of overt racism. Even the Nation of Islam kind of took some of the teachings from the Black Hebrew Israelites to kind of stand on some of those anti-Semitic comments saying that we're the chosen people, we're the real people of Israel. So that is what was needed back in the 1800s because of the specific circumstances that Black people faced when we talked about real systemic racism, real oppression back then. So when we look at these teachings in 2020, so much has changed. We've come so far that we really need to start looking at, yes, this was good for our community a while ago. Yes, this was good for us to get to a certain point, but now we're at a level where we can no longer be as ignorant. We can no longer spew these hateful things because you can start to see some of our rhetoric is starting to line up with the rhetoric of people that we claim to be in opposition of. So we really have to be mindful of, we are not the only people that are being oppressed. We are not the only people that have been through something in this country, in this world. And we have to be more mindful. We have to be more aware of how that affects other communities, and not just the Jewish community. They were saying some flagrant stuff about white people. And if any white person was to say that stuff about Black people, to say, because we do have melanin, we're savages, we're less than, bro, that's crazy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that was slid under the rug just because of the times, but even that's unacceptable.
Yeah. Anytime that you're trying to justify the way people act just off their color is racist. Like that's what it is. That is exactly what racism is. If you're trying to classify an entire race as this or that, whatever statement that you want, is smarter, lesser, savages, whatever words you can think of, you trying to do that, that's racism. No matter who's saying it, no matter what platform you're on, anything of that nature. If you're even not even saying it directly, because there's a lot of times that people say that and it's indirectly. Anytime, and that's kind of where systematic racism comes into play. But anytime you do anything of that is racism. Like, and we as a people, as you know, as the United States, anywhere that you can think of, we have to call that shit out. We got to be able to come out and say like, hey, bro, that's not the way we should be thinking. But again, we shouldn't be canceling people or saying this or that about them just because they said one thing, right? We can educate them. We can talk to them about this because it's bigger for Nick Cannon to do that. And that's why I commend him for actually coming out, apologizing for his words and taking that back, because the people that were listening to it, where they had that confirmation bias and they already feel that way, they see Nick Cannon say it, they see another educated brother say it, now they're like, okay, well, this guy obviously must be true. So it's big for him to come back and say, actually, I fucked that up. Like, that's not right. We shouldn't be thinking like that. It's big because he may sway people's mind away from that now. So the people that he swayed one way by saying it, he easily came back and swayed it the other way by saying, hey, y'all see what's happening to me. Y'all see what type of things I'm going through now. Don't think like this. Don't say these type of things. It's not right. Like, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. And it takes a lot for a man to do that. And we see a lot of the times, we see one side or the other. We see people like Donald Trump, for example, that will stand on his word no matter what, no matter right or wrong. This is what it is. This is what I stood on. We see people that fold too quickly, like I thought Drew Brees did, as like, hey, I'm not willing to take this backlash. Let me apologize immediately. And we got what I think is a happy medium of the two, is like, hey, his first statement was, hey, educate me, talk to me. Like, the conversation should have been had with somebody of who you're accusing, because that's kind of what he's doing, is accusing people of things. Who you're accusing, you should have a conversation with. That's why you had the positive shout for Candace Owens not too long ago, because she comes in and she has a platform where her and another person just sit at a table and they just talk. They don't agree on everything, but they just talk. Like, that's how it should be. If you have a conversation with somebody that's already viewing you as a certain way, that's a confirmation bias. We got to get away from that. So that's kind of where we at with the situation. I don't really have much more to say about it. I'm not condemning him. I'm not even condemning Viacom CBS for firing him. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. I think that Fox handled it actually a little bit better, which is, hey, they held off for a little bit. They said, hey, he's a positive. We talked to him. He's truly sorry for what he did. Like,
Viacom gave him that same opportunity. Like,
yeah, but
they came up to him and they talked to him. Was like,
it would have been a 24-hour. It would have been a 24-hour deal that I was talking about. The statement that he came out with, they didn't like.
Yeah.
The statement that he came out with, he was asking for education, they didn't like. So that's when they fired him.
Yeah.
Fox took the time to say, like, and I could see both sides. I'm not saying from a corporation standpoint, they would have faced a certain amount of backlash, which is why it's surprising that a company like Fox would actually take the time to say, hey, I appreciate him being educated. I appreciate him coming out and apologizing after a little bit. We're going to keep him on as the person that we want. Like, I can appreciate that.
That's two different political ideologies right there when we talking about CBS and we talking about Fox. So
that's what's crazy about it, though.
Yeah. That's
to me, because if you see, right, like that's what's the wild. Like, y'all catch that bar yourself, but that's what's wild about it. Like, that's what's wild.
Sips some 1738 right.
No, let me eat some shit, man. Hold on. Ooh. Okay.
Stay as Nick Cannon says, stay woke.
All right. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's wild, bro. That's a wild concept.
All I want though is for you to keep that same energy.
I'm gonna try, bro.
Keep that same energy, because we pick and choose who we give passes to.
I am going to try to keep that same energy. I'm gonna attempt.
Who am I? The girls them sugar.